like I noted earlier, in today's world, definitely one has to communicate nicely and persuasively in order to be understood, as well as to win the necessary support. For example, you have a solution you've identified within your community, and you would wish to propose a solution for that challenge. As an engineer, as an IEEE volunteer, it is imperative for you to really communicate your solution out in a very, very persuasive way, which a person who would wish to support you would definitely be able to. So this also applies, definitely, like I said, this applies in proposal writing, because we have to convince the targeted beneficiaries to work closely with us, while also we need to convince the targeted development partners to support us with the resources we need to accomplish the targeted piece of work that we are planning to do or we are proposing. For example, you would wish to work with your community in really implementing that particular solution within that community. If the community doesn't really understand you, if you don't communicate well to your community what you're proposing to do, definitely that community won't really support you in that endeavor. So at HTB site, we also value these aspects highly, and in the slides that I'm to share with you in a short while, I'm going to talk about how we volunteers can put together an HTB site proposal right from the start to that funding or supporting supporting stage, as well as the implementation stage. What are some of the best characteristics of a great proposal that we look at HTB? Usually, HTB sites aim to fund projects that provide good use of IEEE expertise. In other words, proposals that show the best of what IEEE can offer within the community. These proposals usually should have that technology component. Usually, that is one of the key aspects that we look at as far as good proposals are concerned. There should be, this proposal should have a clear engagement with the community. In other words, indicating that the proposed solution is both desired and feasible. It is imperative that the solution you are planning to implement within your community is really will benefit your community definitely, and also it is imperative that you engage your community from the start of that solution ideation. So if that community is not engaged, definitely chances are so low that your project will succeed, or it will be sustainable. So it is imperative that we all put that aspect into consideration. Established relationship, ideally documented with stakeholders who will be involved in the project implementation. This is one of the key aspects we look at HTB site during the proposal evaluation processes. It is imperative that you document that involvement, those relationships you are having with your communities. For example, you're planning to work with a particular community. Let's say, for example, that this could be a hospital or a school. It is imperative for you to have, or to request, or to put in place a documentation that shows that you have a relationship with that community. This could be like a support letter from the hospital, a support letter from that community, that school that you'll be collaborating with when implementing that project. So that will definitely increase the chances of your proposal being succeeding or going through or being approved for support. At the same time, it will also increase the chances of your proposal succeeding and also being sustainable. Clear, detailed, and credible project assessment matrix is also one of the other key items that we really look at HTB. How do you intend to measure the success of your project? For example, you're planning to construct maybe a water well within your community. It is imperative for you to have an estimated number of the targeted beneficiaries. How many members, how many committee members will benefit from this kind of solution you are proposing? And at the end of, such that by the, you need to show some numbers on how many numbers you're looking at, you're targeting by the end of the project. So that will also increase the chances of this project success. Project implementation plan. It is imperative that you as a project implementer, you put together a plan that will enable you to successfully implement your project. The budget is also another item, a clear and granular budget that shows the entire breakdown of what you intend to spend on during project implementation. The team is also another issue. The composition of your team is also key in project success and implementation. Does your team have that expertise, experience in implementing or executing your project? Identities and addresses, identifies and addresses. Okay, it's imperative for you as a project implementer to identify those potential risks that you are bound to face during the project implementation. And once you identify those potential risks, how will you mitigate those potential risks? So many of you have been able to look at that application form. We usually ask you to clearly state some of the potential risks you anticipate, as well as the mitigations. How will you the ways on how you plan to mitigate some of those potential risks? Project will also, it is imperative that the project you're planning to implement, it is imperative that it has, or you think of some potential, some real and potential tangible impacts. That's why I talked about for example, when it comes to the project assessment matrix, what are the, how many committee members do you think your project will impact, and what impact? What are some of the impact? What are some of the results that will come out of your project implementation? If a proposal is missing the mark on 2 or more of these areas, it might not be ready for funding, for HTB site funding. So these are really, really key items for us always to consider when putting together the proposal, HTB site proposal. What are some of the common pitfalls and how to avoid them? The primary applicant is always a must to be an IEEE professional member or a higher member, and should always be active. Their memberships should always be active. We definitely welcome proposals from student members, but they must have an active IEEE professional member or a higher grade member as the primary applicant. It is great for us to know that we at HTB, we always check all member numbers before putting an application through to the reviewers. If membership status of the primary applicant is in areas, this proposal will definitely not go forward. It will not proceed to the review process. The IEEE organization unit, whenever possible, should be an IEEE section. Usually when we are dispersing funds for those approved projects, funds are usually dispersed through the IEEE organization units, usually the sections. So it is imperative as an IEEE volunteer planning to implement a project, it is important for you to check out, be in constant touch with your IEEE section, so that they can always it can always guide you on the entire process. HTB generally cannot transfer funds to a society chapter or a student branch. Please make sure to check with the organization unit, for example, a section treasurer, beforehand about how funds are usually dispersed, and if there are any fees that are incurred with the transfer of funds. So it is important to note out this issue as well. The funding amount requested must always be within the limits stated in the call for proposals. We usually put across that call for proposals, and they stated that the limit is usually stated in that call. So it is always good for us all as volunteers to be within those funding limits. The terms of funding must be within the limits stated in the call for proposals. Usually, this is also specified in the call for proposals. For example, the call could look at proposals that we run between, let's say, 6 months, 1 year. So always note which funding period is the proposal call looking at, so that you really make sure that the proposal you're planning to implement will definitely be, you'll be able to implement within that period of time. The technology component usually is a key factor, key issue that we usually look at during the review process. Proposals must have a technology component definitely within the IEEE designated fields. The technology application proposals must ensure that the solution includes an application of technology. This is it is important for us to note this, and pure research projects cannot be really considered in that respect. Usually, at the moment, many of HDB site call for proposals run for a short period of time, let's say 6 months. So if you're planning to implement a research project, definitely by the time you're done with that research, assuming that you're planning to run that research for a period of 6 months, we definitely don't think that within that 6 months, your research project will have an impact on the community. So that's why at the moment, research projects cannot be really considered. Measuring success is another key issue that we as volunteers should always look at. I talked about the project assessment matrix earlier. So projects must have a clearly articulated plan for impact measurement. This is one is usually clearly, we usually request for you to fill out that proposal project assessment matrix during proposal application. General projects proposal solutions must be developed with the involvement and participation of a specific local community, beneficiary community. So this is why what I talked about earlier on. It is really hard for you to implement a project in a community which you've not really involved, which you've not engaged from the start. It's because these are the beneficiaries. These are the target beneficiaries. These are the people who will use the technology after you've really implemented it. So it is imperative for us always to really involve these targeted beneficiaries, these community members from the start. Engage them during the proposal development, as well as proposal project implementation. This will definitely bring about a number of advantages. One of them is the sustainability bit of it, whereby once you're done implementing this project, definitely the community can take it on. It may not be able to take it on if that particular community was not involved from the start. So that is an imperative that we really engage these communities during proposal development, ideation stage, as well as implementation stage. Unnecessary travel, that is in-person components, should always be avoided. Since, for example, at the moment we look at funding projects between, let's say, $1,000 to $10,000. So it is imperative that the biggest bunch of resources go on the real technology implementation. So we should always avoid the unnecessary travel, so that much of the resources go up to the other component, let's say implementation or technology deployment or development. Projects will not be considered if they are, for example, like I said earlier, primarily research or commercial in nature, pure STEM education related. Usually, for example, as far as STEM oriented, within IEEE, we have other programs that fund STEM related projects or programs like EPICS and also Try Engineering, TISP and all that. So as HTB, we encourage you always assuming you intend to implement such a project, to reach out to the other programs. If a project solely is focused on immediate disaster relief, that is want us as well as won't be really also supported. If a project is focusing on developing medical devices or medical prototypes, this is because many of these devices require a lot of approval processes, since such technologies will be tried, let's say, on humans. So at the moment, we don't support such projects. What are some of the risks? What are some of the other common pitfalls and how to avoid them? Potential risks, always spend some time on this, like I said earlier. Clearly state some of the potential risks that you anticipate, and definitely always think of some of the mitigations to that. Please make sure that to thoroughly consider the potential risks of the proposed project, including but not limited to risk of infection, as well as data privacy, risks, etc., and how they can be mitigated. Documentation and collaboration is also is another issue that I earlier talked about. Make sure to include it. Provide documentation to validate partnerships with external organizations, local community representatives, or government entities. For example, you're planning to collaborate with your government or any representative from any institution. It is imperative for you to defend it or to accompany it by, let's say, a support letter from that particular organization or institute that you intend to work with. Reviewers frequently ask to see these letters of acknowledgement and support. So this is one of the issues the proposal reviewers always look out for when they are reviewing those particular proposals. In respect to budget items, always avoid including salaries and honorariums for work that could not be done by IEEE volunteers. We have a number of volunteers who really wish to participate, who always wish to support fellow volunteers in project implementation. So, and by doing that, they will definitely be developing their careers, developing their skills, as well as impacting communities. So as HTB site, we definitely don't fund salaries and honorarium in that respect. What are some of the other tips for success? We usually encourage you all always to read the call for proposals in order to determine if your idea falls within the scope of funding opportunity, and that you and your team members meet all the eligibility requirements. Download the template file, which are required to complete the online proposal before filling out the application, so you can review ahead of time. At times, we've noted it in the recent past that at times this proposal call might run for a few weeks. So it is imperative for you, instead of like you putting in, responding to the questionnaire via online, you usually advise volunteers to really download that application form. For example, you could download it and attend it to, let's say, download it in Word and then attend to the respective questions, and later on probably upload the answers. What are some of the additional resources? There are a lot of resources available on the HTB website, and we definitely welcome you to really visit this particular HTB website to access many of these resources. Proposal checklist, for example, this is a recently added resource that will definitely enable you to see and also to meet the related criteria before you advance to the evaluate, to make sure that to let you know whether your proposal can definitely advance to the evaluation stage. We also have a recorded Q&A on addressing the common pitfalls in completing the new project assessment matrix. In the recent past, we've noted that this is one of the key challenges many of the volunteers face during the proposal application process. So we have a resource in that respect, which will definitely guide you on how to attend to the project assessment matrix. And it is important also to note that if your math project, if this matrix is not really attended to well, if you've not really answered it well, definitely the review team will always revert back to you to request you to for you to request for for you to update that particular assessment before your proposal proceeds to the next level review process. Presentation on characteristics of a great proposal is also available on the HTB website. We also recommend you to access a variety of resources, free HTB on free HTB site courses on the IEEE Learning Network. These are free courses, and always feel free to really check out on all those resources. And definitely, we are definitely sure that such resources will definitely empower you to put together a very strong proposal, which proposal can definitely be supported by HTB site as well as other organizations. Thank you so much. And at this juncture,